podcast. Today, we are continuing our series from the customer perspective, and we have a wonderful guest, Bill McCarty, who has been an operations manager for the last 10 years and probably the last 5 years for tech companies. So he has a great perspective on how to use technology to basically optimize operations. So, welcome, Bill. So glad to have you.
Thank you so much, Jackie. I'm really excited to be here talking with you today.
So, we're going to start, with just from your perspective. What is it that you find about the technologies that you get to work with every day or that you choose to work with every day that help optimize operations, but specifically even make you more effective in your job and make it easier for all the people you're supporting to be more effective in their jobs? What do you think those top three to five things are?
Absolutely. That's a really good question and something that is pretty near and dear to my heart. When you're talking about your tech stack tools, I think there's three top things that you really need to use when you're evaluating. One, does the tool increase ease and efficiency? Specifically for the team you're trying to support, does it make their life easier? And is it impactful with that ease? The second thing is the insights. Does the tool provide business insights that you didn't have before? And does it make them easy to access? Kind of going back to that first point, so where you actually are getting something valuable from that tool. And third is the customer experience. Some tools are actually customer facing or they end up supporting teams that are very customer facing. And if those tools can improve the customer experience, you fall in love with them and they become part of your day to day. So those are kind of the top three things that I really look for when we're evaluating tools.
Yeah, I think that I agree. I think that's pretty true and pretty spot on. When you're talking about the tools like the customer experience, what is it? Because you and I both know there's a gazillion tools that probably
So
hit the first two out of the park, and but does a lot of your decisions to select the tool and or keep the tool where you're really finding value, talk a little bit more about what in the customer experience has made a difference for you when you think about the tools that you've fallen in love with and you'll take it with you to the next company and the next company. What was it about that experience that was so impactful?
you know, I think I go back to that first one. Was it easy for the customer? If you can do things to make them easier, if you're talking a project management tool, maybe it's the ease in which you can share a project plan with them and they can provide quick insights back and share opinions that is maybe outside of an email thread or other back and forth that might be a little more cumbersome. That's a win. Other things I've thought of are customer facing help centers. Like, what allows your customer to self serve the easiest when you're on those tools that are really intended to be true self serve tools for your customers? Are there pain points or are there wins? There definitely are tools that are better than others in that standpoint. And I think that's where that customer experience really comes into play is, does it make the customer's life easy? If the customer comes away feeling like things were easy to do, easy to manage, uh, they win and you win, and that tool becomes really important to your operations.
Yeah, and do you find it that when you're talking to your end users, um, when you're rolling these kinds of tools out, do you find that your end users are more wanting a online education, or I want to learn it quickly, I want to learn it on my own time, or do you find that they get more out of it or they get up to speed quicker by actually attending a two or a half a day or a couple of day training session? What are you finding that your end user open to and finding actually impactful for them to be able to get up to speed quicker and fall in love with the tools?
You know, that's a really good question, and I think it has a pretty wide answer. Um, I think a lot of it depends on the customer you're dealing with. As we know, customers are at different levels in their comfort with technology. And I find that you really need to be able to actually meet the customer at where they are. And it could be that you need to have tools and programs in place that allow those customers who aren't as comfortable with using things to get that deeper dive and to get their hand held a little bit longer than the others. Um, I would say, kind of spinning off that to the other point, there's almost a combination to where I'm seeing more and more, specifically within support reaches and touches, the ability to answer that question in a handheld way, and then the support agent wraps it up with pointing the person to that help article that would allow them to self-serve. So it's almost kind of that combination, like I'm going to walk you through it. Let me provide you that detailed answer. I'm here with you. And then the experience ends with that. Here's the link to our help center article. And just seeing if you have a customer who's truly that a little more comfortable with technology and a truly spot up higher on the notch for being able to self-serve and work within the tool themselves comfortably, having that access to the help center and just giving them that insight, they may run with it, and you're less likely to see and hear touches from that customer. Whereas you may hear from the one who needs a little more help again, and at that point, you almost end up steering them towards those tools, those education classes, those programs that you spoke about, maybe a coaching session or two. That's much more of a handheld topic. But I think, kind of broadly speaking, a tool that allows you and your team to hold the customer's hand, but then kind of point them in that self-serve direction is becoming something that I'm seeing more and more, and I'm seeing positive experiences out of more and more. It seems like it gives the best of both worlds, where if you have something to where you can easily point customers to a self-serve access, they love that, but they're also not going to hold back on continuing to reach out. And you need to make sure you have the programs in place to help those customers that need the longer handheld.
Yeah, and when you're rolling out your own tools, so thinking about, your project management tools, your analytic tools, your customer feedback tools, your customer support tools, and education, which you've done all of those. When
For
you
sure.
were rolling it out to get all of, your departments online, what was it? Was it you going around and actually kind of holding their hand, or did you roll it out with, okay, here's the education classes you're going to go to, and here's the help center if you need help, or did you roll it out more of it really took some internal commitment to get them all up to speed and comfortable?
You know, I personally, when rolling out a tool internally, I like to try to be a little handholdy up front. Just give that high level show and tell. And usually within that, I find that the people who you're probably going to need to sit with a little bit longer, and they speak up the most in those show and tell sessions. And usually the ones who are a little more comfortable, they nod, they smile, and if as long as they don't grumble, they likely are probably going to be off and running and self-serving. If they grumble, you probably need to take a few steps back. And you typically, within a team, it's pretty easy to know and see who's at what level. It's one of those weird human dynamics where I've found throughout my career, the people that need their handheld usually aren't afraid to speak to it and ask for that help. And then the ones who want to self-serve, they're usually pretty quiet and they want to run, and they will ping you if and when they absolutely have to ping you.
Do you do a lot of where you kind of get to know their job, what they do, how they do it today? And do you think part of the helping them to accept the new technology and get behind it is showing them how to do their job in a different way that makes it easier for them, makes them more effective, where it's basically you're showing them what's in it for them? Do you do a lot of that?
I absolutely do. I think that's actually kind of selling point one whenever you're introducing a new tool. And hopefully you've spent that time. I know I myself operationally, one of the things I love to do is when I'm jumping into a new team, learning to help a new team, is try to get a sense of what they're doing and what their day-to-day looks like, and really try to listen, because people are usually pretty open about sharing what drives them nuts within a tool. And if you can get those points, you pretty much get your opening statement for that show and tell statement. Show and tell session. When you're rolling out a new tool, you can open with, "This is why we got this tool. Here's what it's going to do to make your life better, and here we go." I've found that if you take that approach, it really, really helps to sell the new tool, because you're explaining to your team why the organization has gone forward with it, that they listened to the pain that they had, and here's the effort in place to try and solve it.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. So flipping that, um, at, you can, share your personal experience when you talk to vendors, when you're working with vendors. So let's say, your report stopped working, the system goes down, your data integrity seems maybe at a mess, or wherever your big challenges are.
Yeah.
What are your pet peeves that make you stay with a vendor through some of those challenges versus I'm out, we got to find somebody else, or we've got to find another tool? Is it, so talk to it, maybe share a little bit about what about the product might make you make another, think about replacing, or what is it about when you're trying to get help
Yeah.
through that would also make you want to look for another vendor?
For sure. I mean, really, what kind of drives us to wanting to buy these tools, implement tools, get to everything. And I think that falls back to three things as well, kind of the flip side of what we were talking about before with what makes something sticky, what makes you go so mad that you're ready to start demoing other things and you're willing to give your email and messages, all sorts of marketing sales emails.
Right.
Uh, I find that three things make you hit that point, just like three things make it sticky. The three things that drive you nuts is reliability. If the product keeps going down, it causes outages that stop your team and your production. You're probably going to get pretty frustrated pretty quick and you're going to start shopping. The other thing is capability. I think we're getting to a point where there's so much competition with among technologies and tools that you're pretty aware of what your tool can do, its functionalities, and if there's a lacking functionality or capability within that tool, and you become aware of a competitor that has that capability and functionality, and it's something that you really badly want, that's going to drive you to start shopping.
Right.
So it's capability within your tool. Is it giving you everything that is essential to your business? If there's a gap in that, you're probably going to start shopping. And then the last thing is the employee and customer experience, kind of flipping the third point of what makes something sticky for a customer and for you as a customer around and being like, are my employees constantly complaining and frustrated with this tool? And on the flip side, if the employees are frustrated, there's probably a downwind effect to the customer as well. And there's probably some customer frustrations coming out of weaknesses within this tool. And I think if you have that, if you have a tool to where every day you hear your employees just sounding off within from their desk, just that grumbling and complaining about a specific tool.
Wanting to throw their computer across the room, kind
Yep,
of thing.
exactly. That's exactly it. When you get those moments, one, that complaining usually spreads amongst the team pretty fast, and you get a unanimous consensus that they all hate something within a tool.
Right.
And that frustration leads you to need to listen and try to find something better for your team.
Yeah. Versus they go around to another department and go, man, if you guys aren't using this, you should be, because this thing's the greatest. It's made our
Exactly.
life so much easier. Yeah.
It's so funny how these things they are win or lose.
Right.
It's
It's funny. I do talk a lot to my customers about the idea that it's not just about who you sell to that will take the tool. Like, people in your role are known champions, and salespeople
absolutely
will cling to people like you because you're the one championing across the company how great you think the
totally.
solution is. But it's even more powerful when all your users are going around and recommending it. That's how you get really viral in a company if you're trying to go
Oh,
wall to wall,
absolutely.
right? Like think about Slack, how many people once they get in it start going around and going, you guys need to get on this. You need to, the next thing you
For
know,
sure.
without any sales at all, everybody in the company is on
Everybody's
Slack.
hooked.
Even
Everybody
people,
loves it.
you and I both talked about how, I'm not a big chatty, online person because I come from a generation that's more like face to face,
Yep.
phone calls, sitting online and chatting with you because you're right down the hall is not, as rewarding. And, I don't really like that kind of office environment. If I have a question or whatever, I want to get up and go down and talk to you face to face.
Absolutely.
So, I think, but this generation coming up is very tech savvy, very comfortable with technology. And I think you pointed out quite a few things. They have high expectations because
I
there's
do.
so much competition that, I'll say, years ago, if you put out a requirements list and, most of the vendors probably hit 80, 85% of your key requirements. And if it hit all the high value ones, your big problems, you were all in. And you
Yeah.
kind of knew you were going to have to suffer through some of the things that it didn't do very well. but you made that conscious decision. Now it seems like they put out that requirements list and they're looking for 100% coverage
I agree. I
of
agree.
that. And if you don't get it, then they're looking and they're going to continue to look. And SaaS makes it so easy to flip
Yes,
that if it's not easy to use, if end users don't find value very quickly, or it doesn't really make their life and their job easier and better very quickly, this kind of is the generation of a bit instant satisfaction. I think we have
yeah,
to just
they will leave.
understand that, yeah, and off they go. No, I think those are all really great points. And um, one of the things I think, as being kind of the center of operations that you bring to the table is you can be the champion, right? Because it takes people like you to be the change agents.
For sure.
Because even this generation doesn't like change. I mean, most people don't like change, right?
Oh no,
Listen, I'm using this. I got it down. I know how to do my job. Don't mess with me.
absolutely. Yesterday was Tuesday. I came in, I had a normal Tuesday, and you're telling me it's Wednesday and I got to have a whole new face. I just want to get through my Wednesday. And you got to really respect that people are running with their day to day. They hate that change, to your point. And if you're going to make that change, you better be able to sell them that you're making it for a good reason and that you can improve their day to day.
Yeah, and I think not necessarily putting words in your mouth, but I think as I kind of summarize some of your key points, it sounds to me like even people in your role, one of the keys is for you to have a bit of a roadmap. You're going to rely on that vendor to say, listen, you know your technology inside and out. I've shared with you, our infrastructure and our architecture. You tell me best. What is a best practice approach that I should take to implement this quickly? Because I know my end users, and if I don't make it a win-win for them in the shortest period of time, I am going to have a hard time getting traction with this. Do
Oh,
you,
for sure.
I'm assuming
I,
that's something that you were really referring to with some of the, well, it's really great if they, have a plan and they've got some education and they have these options and things like that. But do you feel like you have to figure that out most of the time, or are there some really good vendors that help you with that?
I would say that's definitely shifted. And within the last few years of my career, I find myself when I'm working with a new vendor or when I'm working with a new product within something that we may already have and we're seeking to roll out, you did not put words in my mouth. I very much ask, tell me what is best practice as we're setting this up. And I expect them to have an answer and I expect them to know and have a recommendation for what is going to be the easiest way in which we're going to set up this new product or feature within an existing product. And I want a best practice answer. I get frustrated if they stumble and they don't have one. That tells me that something's probably not going to work out very well.
Right. Or you're going to have to spend a lot of your valuable time trying
Exactly.
to figure it out by reading the manuals or reading the
Totally.
online content or
Oh,
asking out
very
on Google, hey, anybody else done this?
no.
Yeah.
It without a doubt it goes down to that road of frustration. If they don't have a way to map for you best practices, you immediately start to doubt. You're like, do you know what you're doing? Does this product actually do what you've told us it's going to do? Because if there's not a best practices approach that you can recommend, at least use to get me started, I'm going to start getting really concerned.
Right, right. No, I agree. Well, thank you. I think those are all really great points. It was wonderful to have your insights both on, what makes you more effective in your role, what helps, and hopefully will help a lot of our audience who are trying to get their solutions into companies like yours, how to approach, the operations manager and how to best serve you and how to best enable you to be effective quickly in your role, but also to figure out what are your high value problems that you're trying to solve, not just for you, but for the company and the departments you're serving. And on the flip side of that, from an experience perspective, you want me to stay around. Listen, provide me a roadmap, provide
Yep.
me best practices, give me the kind of support, responsiveness, reliability that you promised in the sales cycle, and be a partner to me. Be there when I need you and offer really good advice. Don't leave me to the internet to figure it all out. If there are some clunkiness to your solution, either give me a better workaround that helps my end users, or just know that, the clunkier you get, the less reliability you get, the more we're going to look for other solutions.
Well said.
So thank you for that. I think those are great insights. I really
Thank you
appreciate
so
your
much, Steph.
time, and it was such a joy to have you on the show. I'm sure we'll have you back again.
Thanks so much, Jackie. I'd love that. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Take care.
You do the same.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.